Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Lisa Vassal. I'm a nurse practitioner with For Better Health Functional Medicine Practice in Hopkinton. And today I have Dr. Patty Zub, my genius colleague, with me. And we're here to reach out to our community who we desperately miss with our doors being closed, even though we are working telemedically. And we thought we would reach out just to kind of give you guys a big hug and offer some information, because we've been having a lot of patients, both of us. We've been discussing it behind the scenes between Dr. Zub and I and Maggie. If those of you haven't met her, she's amazing. Just so many people reaching out, asking questions about this pandemic and ways to support their bodies. We've had colleagues, we've had friends, we have loved ones. What can I do? And so we thought it would be good for us to reach out to you collectively as a team and sort of support some of the questions that we've been asked, answer them specifically, and then afterwards, feel free to go ahead and I'm going to post this, and you guys can ask questions below that. And so, as I said, I'm Lisa Vassal, nurse practitioner. We have a functional medicine practice in Hopkinton, Mass, and this is Dr. Patty Zub.
Hi, thanks for that nice introduction, Lisa. Most of you probably already know me, but if you don't, my name is Dr. Patty Zub. I'm an internist and been practicing functional medicine, Lisa and I, at For Better Health. And I feel like this is an amazing opportunity to continue to expose people to what we do. Many of you already know what we do because you're our patients, but we know there are people out there that desperately need what we do and you're looking for answers and guidance and solutions. And it's really a skill set that Lisa and I have developed over time, and we're excited to share with you today. So welcome.
Yes. So on that note, some of you may know what functional medicine and some of you may not. And so I thought that we would start by explaining what functional medicine is. The way that I like to explain it is to bring the body to the best balance by reducing burdens, so burden in balance. And I like to think of functional medicine as optimizing the function of the body, and that's sort of how that comes in. And that would be, thinking about reducing something that might be bothering it, and then optimizing something that might be low, so that the body can work much better. What about you? How would you?
Lisa, I agree. The way I like to describe it is root cause medicine. And what that means to me is, I really have so much respect for our bodies and the system that really is telling us when it's out of balance. And so root cause medicine and functional medicine to me is about tuning into our bodies and looking at the symptoms we may be exhibiting as almost like the check engine light on your car. And so when we're having a symptom, it's not a deficiency of, say Zoloft for depression. That's not why we get sad. There's something else going on. And so those symptoms are simply a cry for help. And so what we know that we do so beautifully through functional medicine is look for what is the body trying to tell us. And as you said, oftentimes there's something that we need to relieve the system of, like an undiagnosed infection or a toxic burden, or perhaps it's something the body needs extra of to support it in healing. Maybe it's a nutrient that we need more of, or something in our lives, better sleep, less stress. And so functional medicine really honors the whole entire person by not just putting a pill for the ill, but looking at why the body is saying what it's saying to us.
Right. And on that note, I do want to talk, I'll touch base a little bit on that. So we are both traditionally trained practitioners and worked in the traditional allopathic type role. And we have nothing but the most respect for traditional medicine and for medicine in and of itself. What we found was that it wasn't that it was a necessarily wrong system, but there were some things that were potentially missing, like gaps. And so this kind of gives us that toolbox with a couple extra things in the toolbox for those gaps, thinking of it more as healthcare and really trying to actually be proactive, not just reactive in medicine, right? So you have a headache, you take a pill. Why are you getting that headache? It's certainly not a deficiency of Tylenol or ibuprofen, or constipation is not a deficiency of Miralax. And so, what is that? What are those symptoms? Sure, we have no problem with people kind of taking those when they have to. Of course, we don't discount the need for medicine sometimes, or over the counter sometimes medications. But at the same time, over time, it's cumulative, and the body is a cumulative being. And so the longer that something's going on and your body's doing that check engine light of what's going on, you and I and other practitioners like us are saying, your body is really screaming, and then all of a sudden they have XYZ. But there isn't an all of a sudden, it's kind of a cumulative simmering thing.
Right, right. And thank you for saying that, Lisa, because I think that point can't be overstated, that we really work in conjunction with conventional medicine, and there are absolutely points and times that we need to use conventional medicine, and it doesn't mean that you have to use one or the other exclusively. And we're very fortunate that we have that allopathic training and that deep understanding of medications and the pathophysiology, and when it's appropriate, and when we need to start or continue that while we're working on the deeper level of healing, because that is not a quick fix, and that takes time and commitment. And sometimes we need to use conventional medicine
Absolutely.
for safety and because it's the right thing to do. And so I really feel strongly that patients shouldn't feel terribly if they're using conventional medicine. And I feel like we should all work together because we each have solutions that are important, and sharing that information and combining it, I really see as the way forward to the future.
That would be
healthier,
hand-holding and
people.
supporting each other.
Yeah.
Great. So one of the other things that I like to share with people when we talk about functional medicine specifically is, you mentioned quite a bit of it actually, when we think about breaking it down really somewhat simply, and that would be talking about maximizing, minimizing, and prioritizing. And so maximizing the things that your body desperately needs to work well. And I'm not talking about, and you know this, and you can speak to this when I'm done, I know, thinking about what we're eating and maximizing food. So people are like, oh yeah, I know I need to eat healthy. It's not so much you have to have organic, although that would be great if we could all eat that way. It's more so you have to have building blocks in the body so that everything is working simultaneously kind of together, because one thing helps the other thing work better. And sometimes if this is missing, everything else is out of balance. So maximizing things like nutrients and proteins and fats and things like sleep. But you and I talk a lot about the fact that it isn't so much sometimes diet as it is how your body's actually absorbing that. So you can touch base on that real quickly about how.
Sure. Yeah, I think you and I both agree very strongly that food is medicine. And I think that the food that we have available to us, much of it that's cheap and our taste buds are acquainted with, are not really healing type foods. And in that regard, food can be toxic. And so when we're making food choices that promote inflammation and spike our blood sugar, we really have a difficult time achieving optimal health. And it takes its toll on our system. And that chronic inflammation that it creates and perpetuates is really the root cause of many chronic diseases. And so we have some control over that. We can change our choices on a daily basis of what we put into our body and start shifting that. Sometimes, however, if there's been some damage done, we need a little bit of help in kind of discovering how to heal what we're left with. And, so that can be a combination of testing. In functional medicine, we're fortunate to really have some very cutting edge testing that help us to identify perhaps there's a certain set of nutrients that one is deficient in that we really need to target for a period of time to assist the body in healing. Or perhaps the stomach acid is low, or there's overgrowth of bacteria that we need to address. And as we're addressing that and supporting the body and healing, those systems come into balance, and then we can choose food as medicine, and the body can digest it well and absorb it, and then we can, have adequate proteins and make our neurotransmitters so that we can sleep well and experience joy and connection and manage our stress. And so it's it's a process of honoring all those different pieces of the puzzle. And if we just hit on one without the rest of them, oftentimes we will be successful. And so it's a commitment, and it's very interesting. I think, Lisa, you would agree that patients really love going through the functional medicine experience with us and really understanding what's going on in their own unique biochemical body, because my biochemistry is different than yours. My nutritional needs are different than yours. And so this everybody needs X amount of vitamin D really doesn't necessarily work, because we all have different factors that affect our needs.
Right, and each person is unique. That's really
Right.
huge. Thank you for mentioning that. And the fact that sometimes our patients come to us with lab data and we just use that lab data, right? And so we say,
Right.
wait, so I'm looking at your lab data and there's nothing wrong or abnormal, but there's a lot here that's suboptimal, whether that be a little bit too high in the reference range or a little bit too low in the reference range, or drastically of both. And if that's the case, you can imagine, as we just talked about, the huge imbalances that the body might be feeling. Right.
Right, right. And we get to
And
be
then,
detectives, and we
right,
get to be detectives. We can look at that data and, maybe patterns emerge that lead us to understand, well, why might that be? That might
right.
be because maybe the stomach acid is low and you're not absorbing those certain nutrients that we need stomach acid to absorb. And so I think it's fun for both of us, and we can look at conventional testing and get a lot of information that helps us help our patients.
For sure. And then, so real quickly, before we jump on to the next subject, which was kind of thinking about optimizing the immune system, can you share maybe one, or two powerful functional medicine, experiences that you had with a patient, and maybe something that's sort of the masses that know about, something that people are struggling with on a regular basis that you've had luck treating a lot of your patients with?
I think that it's very common for people to feel a certain way and assume it's related to their aging. And so, I've had many patients, as I'm sure you have, who come in, they're feeling tired, they're kind of achy, they have some brain fog, they have traditional testing, they're told they're fine, or maybe, they should go talk to somebody, but they know that something's out of balance in their body. And then, we do the testing, and I find that food sensitivities are tremendously powerful. And occasionally there's a food that may actually be something that's, a healthy food that for many people is good for us. But for whatever reason, for this particular person, they're having some reactivity to. And the powerful effect that has on patients continues to astound me, because you would not think that just ingesting a food or two that you're reacting to would affect so much of your wellness. But you and I both know well that this is in fact the case. And so identifying, eliminating food sensitivities can make a lot of those what seem disparate symptoms disappear. And then adding some nutrients, because sometimes when that's going on, patients will, have developed some nutrient deficiencies, and maybe their iron's a little low and they're not anemic. And I've had many patients, their blood count's normal, their iron's in range, but when we support optimizing their iron and healing their gut and removing a couple targeted foods, that they feel amazing. Their fatigue is gone, their bowels are regular, their thinking's clear, their sleep is deeper, their mood is better, just from a few simple things. And it's beautiful, and it's exceptionally powerful. And so I think those are my favorite kind of patients to just be able to work with and see such a tremendous effect from such simple things.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Those are powerful. I mean, I have a patient that came in right before all of this happened in the office, and she couldn't believe it. She's like, I have not felt this good in 5-10 years. And she just, like you said, expected, well, I'm getting older, it's hormones, it's this, it's that.
Right.
For me, that patient, but also those kind of patients, but also I love the patients that have, a chronic condition, whether that be something like a constipation that they've been to a bunch of different people and it's just who they are. Pooping once a week is normal, which it's not. Take out the trash every day. But then for those people, I had one that she couldn't believe it. She had not gone to the bathroom. It's 15 years. And after working with us for 6 weeks, she was able to go every day and couldn't believe the way she felt. And the people that have things like diabetes or high lipids, cholesterols, and on medications that we don't discount, but they are either having symptoms from the medications, or they are concerned about the next medication and potentially what happens with long-term chronic conditions such as heart attack, stroke. So working with them and seeing their numbers really change and shift in 3 months and 6 months, and how mind blown they are, is really, really fun.
Yeah, that is fun. I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next section, which was we've talked about a little about the inflammation in the immune system. And as I had mentioned at the beginning, a lot of why we kind of had this call was to talk about some of the calls and the reach out that we've had from people and saying, how can I support my immune system right now? And so I was hoping that you could quickly just touch base on how inflammation, when we talk about that, why do we look at that as a piece of the immune system?
Well, inflammation requires your immune system, and the way inflammation works is that cells communicate with each other through these chemicals called cytokines. And they're very important. We need them when we're exposed to an infection or something foreign to our body. We need that cell signaling system to work so that our immune system can contain it and get rid of it. And so it's essential that that's working well. When it is being taxed and we're chronically becoming inflamed, then we're having problems. And then perhaps, and what's going on with this COVID-19 pandemic is that some people have such dysregulated inflammation that it doesn't stop. And that's what we're thinking is a piece of what's going on right now. And when the body is inflamed, we don't feel good, we feel inflamed. And it's not just one part of our body, it's all over. So really the symptoms can be quite diffuse. And so inflammation also utilizes a lot of our body's nutrients and makes it difficult for our body to do its normal functions
Overuse almost.
because the immune system is really taxed, and it's paying attention to one thing and not the rest of what it needs to do for us to feel well.
Right. So in almost the burden that we've talked about, a huge burden, so that it's overused and so it's using up more than it should, but reacting in a way that it's protecting you, but potentially opposite, right? So there's that reaction of that, and then the distraction. This is coming to you, but it's so busy doing over here that it's not necessarily paying attention to the next thing that's coming in.
Right. And then our immune system can misfire and cause all kinds of problems like autoimmune issues as well. Yeah.
So when we talk about inflammation, what would you say are the top 5 things that we can do? Because people want to know their supplement things. So we'll get to that. I know that those of you that are on the call are thinking, I really just want them to get to the supplements. So what kind of things can you do prior to supplementation to make the supplements, if you are going to take those and go that way, to work the best that they can?
Well, I think, our daily choices on multiple levels. And so, we could start with stress. And so when we are in a state of stress, we are in this fight or flight physiology. And what that means is when we experience stress, whether it's real, like we're about to get hit by a car, or it's perceived like I have this upcoming event or this is going on in my life that I'm worried about, our body can't tell the difference. And the physiology that happens actually is very inflammatory. And it's the balance between that sympathetic part of the nervous system and the parasympathetic part of the nervous system that is so important in maintaining a good immune system. So we're in this chronic, stressful, as I said, whether it be our thoughts or watching the news or going on social media, our body perceives that as a threat. And that really taxes our immune system, so our immune system can't work well. And so I think, a very simple thing that we can do is manage our stress. And so that may look like, limiting your time on social media and what you're reading. When we talk about diet, part of our diet is our thoughts. And we have some control over that. And, so I think that's a really important thing that gets some lip service, but a lot of times people don't often have a skill set with that. So I'm a huge fan of meditation and a mindfulness practice. It doesn't have to be meditation, but something along those lines that really helps to balance that tone of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system so that we can rest and relax and digest and reproduce. And we're not in that go, 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 pro-inflammatory, all resources in our body get put towards that fight response. The other thing that I think is really important is sleep. And that is also underrated but crucial. We do so much healing. Our body does detoxifying, resets for a new day when we sleep. So it's important to have a regular schedule, to do what we need to do to help our body achieve a deep, restful sleep. And then we can counterbalance any inflammation. If we're not sleeping, we're going to have a difficult time managing that. And then, the other huge piece that is in our control is our diet.
Mhm.
And we did talk some about that already. And, we have a choice every single time we put something in our mouth, whether we want to feed health and vibrancy, or if we want to promote inflammation. And so that is something that is a powerful, powerful tool for us right now. And just what we decide to either order online or buy in the grocery store will really affect the inflammation in our body and our immune system.
Mm. And to that point, one of the things I've told my kids and my patients and my clients forever is to see if you can't eat the rainbow. Eating the
Right.
rainbow every day. See if you can't get a color of the rainbow in pretty much every day. Definitely greens. That's one thing that's major. But can you eat the rainbow? And so some people are like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that. Or I have a sensitivity to this or that, or whatever it may be. But so really trying to put in the fruits and veggies and really more veggies than fruit because
Right.
of the sugar. And
Right.
so for some, we have patients that say, oh, I can't do that, or I don't like it, or I can't get my kids to do that, or whatever it may be. And there is something that we sometimes refer to. It's called Juice Plus, which is fruits and vegetables. It's dehydrated and it's capsules. And if that's what you have to do, as far as really sort of adding those colors in and really helping to reduce inflammation and oxidation in the body. And for me, we mentioned it a little bit with the gut prior, but if you're not going to the bathroom every day, or if you're going 10 times a day,
Mm-hmm.
either one
Mm-hmm.
is really inflammatory. And so most people, some of the people watching this probably know this because they know us and they've heard us talk. But for many, they don't realize that that's where our immune system, much of our immune system lands, is right in our gut.
Right.
And when
Right.
we say gut, we say anything from the mouth to the bottom. And so going through the whole entire digestive tract, what you're putting in when you talk about food is either friend or foe, whether that be a sensitivity or a toxin or a food dye or chemicals that you're looking at and you can't even read an ingredients list,
Mm-hmm.
or is it high sugar? And so sugar will reduce the inflammation or increase the inflammation because the immune system doesn't know what to do with a really high glycemic diet coming through. But also the people that have heartburn and bloating, and they don't even think that that's a GI dysfunction, right? So
Right.
those are all, if we can get those to be balanced and really help, that will decrease the inflammation. So for me, that's huge. And then we mentioned a little bit about chemicals. We do have some choice what we use for that. So, what are you using to clean the house? What are you using to wash your body? What are you using to brush your teeth? What are you using to put makeup on? What are you using on a regular basis that may be adding some stress to the immune system as far as chemicals are concerned? And that's something that we can do each time we just purchase a different thing, to your point.
Right.
And that's really what we look at when we think about the immune system in the sympathetic go, and calming that down. And when you mentioned meditation, it could be as simple as reading a really funny book or a really fiction, one of those really nice Harlequin, whatever. It can be gardening, it could be walking, it could be being in the woods, it can be rolling around in the backyard with your kids, giggling and laughing. But to be pulled away from that sympathetic feeding, car accident type thing where people have to watch it and have to see it and have to, and so to really sort of think about how can I redirect that and calming that, shutting down the TV. What are you reading on social media? Is it increasing fear and anger and anxiety, or is it releasing that and thinking about it as a way to export those things? Other things that I know that you talk about and think about are things like qigong, which is great. So do you want to talk about that a little bit? And tapping maybe?
Yeah, I feel like we all need some way to come out of our heads and into our body and be present. And meditation is one way for some people. I think being in nature, all those things you named are other things. One thing that I often use personally and with patients is acupuncture. And unfortunately, right now, with the state of the world, none of us have access to that. So although I've known about personally about Qigong for many, many years, I've never really experienced it. And one of the gifts of kind of having this time to go a little inward and being at home is I got to explore something new and discovered that Qigong is actually absolutely wonderful. And for me, it feels very similar to the acupuncture. And so I've shared that with patients. I found some YouTube videos that I really enjoy. And it's, I think everybody has pretty easy access to that. And so I think that's a nice modality for self-care that is very balancing and calming to the nervous system and very supportive of the immune system. And that's exactly what we need right now.
Right.
Tapping's another modality that I often recommend. It's not for everybody, but it's, again, an acupressure somewhat related modality of tapping on different acupressure points and going through statements that may be on our mind and releasing them and replacing them with a more positive interpretation of that. And again, you can go on YouTube and find many videos on that. And there's some good books that you could, order online. And I think those are nice. They could be completely free modalities that we can support ourselves during this stressful time and learn something new. And, perhaps it'll be something very supportive that we love that we end up sharing with other people.
Right. Yeah. So going into our next section, we thought we would quickly go through, I don't know how quickly we can do it, but trying to keep this as short as possible for all of you that are paying attention. Thank you. Going on here 30 minutes. So we were thinking, just touching base on some of the supplements that people are asking about and purchasing at enormous levels, because we all know that it's been difficult to find some of the supplements that we recommend regularly to boost the immune system, not just in a viral pandemic. And I'm going to just start off by just saying, for me, one of the things that I try to have people do is to know that there's no one supplement for everybody, and there's nothing that is a cure for anything, whether it be a viral pandemic, whether it be an autoimmunity, whether it be whatever. It really has to do with the way that the body uses something and whether or not it does or does not need it. And for sure, we all know that some people just shouldn't be taking certain things. So we want to make sure that you do reach out to a medical practitioner before adding a bunch of supplements to your daily routine. As far as the stress piece is concerned, people will ask, well, how can I reduce stress? I'm really, really anxious. I've had quite a few patients come in and mention that their anxiety is much higher, which of course it makes sense. And they're working out all the time and it just isn't helping. And sometimes we have to understand that working out can actually upregulate that sort of sympathetic nervous system as you're talking about. So working out is great, but doing it maybe less intense, less time, and then adding one of these other modalities we've talked about.
Right.
And then thinking about something like a holy basil tea or a tulsi tea, which is a very calming tea, and it won't make you tired. And those are sort of easy to adapt for anybody. And so if I was to ask you, say, when we talk about supplements specific to, say, this pandemic, it's the virus itself. Many of us are asymptomatic, testing positive, but some people are getting the virus, and they're in the fear of what's going on, and all of us being quarantined is highly anxiety building. And so if we looked at some of the research, which we've done thoroughly, to see which supplements have been discussed as helping the immune system in viral load, but not specific to preventing or stopping COVID.
Right. Lisa, the situation we're all in right now is this one of uncertainty because this is a novel virus. And We simply don't know, and we're learning as we go. So what we were hearing 4 weeks ago is different, and has shifted from what we heard 2 weeks ago, and what we talk about right now today may shift again tomorrow. And so I think that we're understanding COVID at a deeper level as we experience this. And there are brilliant people out there that are researching, and I think in time we'll have more definitive answers. But right now we're starting to get some insight into the pathophysiology of how this virus works, how it gets into our immune system, how it hijacks our immune system, how it may in fact be hijacking the hemoglobin and our red blood cells. And so, as that evolves, we'll have a better idea of specifically treating it. But there is a large body of evidence for viruses that are similar to COVID-19, other coronaviruses or other viruses that use the same biological mechanism
with
to
the RNA.
hijack the the RNA viruses to hijack the immune system. And there is some, significant literature out there on those viruses. So it's not a huge leap to think that perhaps these same nutrients may be supportive of our immune system. But, simply stated, we really don't know.
Right.
So, but we're learning. But I think there are some key things that we know help with viruses that are reasonable to recommend in this situation: vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin A, to name a few, seem like very, very reasonable things to take to support our immune system.
Right. And some of the others that have been mentioned, curcumin, or also called turmeric, quercetin, looking at things like boosting the overall ability for your body to reduce oxidation and to detoxify, things like N-acetylcysteine and glutathione. You and I talked a little bit about the idea that melatonin is super helpful for some people. Not only is it helpful for the sleep piece that we already talked about, but it also has antioxidant and antiviral support. And then really thinking about how would we be able to, if you were going to counsel one of your patients and they were taking some of these, what would you counsel them as far as how to take them?
Well, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, depending on their unique medical situation. Sometimes we're fortunate we have testing. I know what a vitamin D level is, so I can give a really specific recommendation. Across the board, most people, particularly in the part of the United States that we're in the Northeast, are vitamin D deficient. You just can't get enough of your diet. We don't get enough sunlight most of the year. We're coming into spring, hallelujah. But most of us are going to need 5,000 IUs of vitamin D a day. And I think that's a very kind of safe and acceptable dose for most people to be on. And so that's what I personally take. It's what I give my adolescent children along with their Juice Plus, because, I can only shove so many veggies into them. But I think,
fry them first.
I think, vitamin D, 5,000 IUs a day is a very, reasonable starting place for most people. Zinc, zinc, you have to be careful long-term, but there's so much evidence now that is really supportive for our immune system. And you and I test that in our patients. So, we certainly have a subset of patients that are truly zinc deficient, but, between 30 and 60 milligrams a day. I wouldn't do any doses higher than that, but 30 milligrams twice a day or 15 milligrams 3 or 4 times a day, I think is for most people supportive. Long term, we really need to be careful about depleting copper. But for short term, I think that's reasonable, and those are good doses and kind of alignment with what I've been taking. Vitamin C, unless you you have a certain type of kidney stone called an oxalate kidney stone, I think vitamin C is a key nutrient for immune system. It's an antioxidant.
Not orange juice.
not a sugar load. The other thing I'm noticing now is we have a lot of pollen here and a lot of allergies coming up, and there's nothing worse than getting a sore throat and wondering, is it COVID or is it allergies?
Right.
Vitamin C is a fabulous natural antihistamine, as is quercetin.
Quercetin, right.
So those, you and I, we both use those kind of as natural treatment for allergy symptoms. But vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams twice or even 3 times a day for most people is very reasonable and supportive. And so I think those are good starting points for people. And
would you recommend taking them with food, without food?
Well, I think that our body, for the most part, digests and assimilates nutrients best when taken with food. And so for those particular ones, absolutely. There are some exceptions, but for, the vitamin D, the vitamin C, zinc, I would absolutely, try to take them with food.
And I had mentioned quercetin as well. That was that one I would typically tell people it can be taken with food, but it usually is better taken not with food. And unless you're taking it, sometimes it's combined with the vitamin C, which is a really good power punch. That's usually about 500 milligrams once or twice a day. Curcumin, it's great if you can have it as a phytosome delivery system, something that's going to deliver into the cells better than turmeric itself. That can be done with black pepper as well. And that's usually anywhere from 500 to 1,000 a couple times a day as well. And usually that's better with food.
Yeah, I like to take my curcumin. Actually, I take it in the morning with some, some coconut oil in my coffee, because that fat, taking it with the fat really helps increase absorption. Yep. And so I think that's a good way to get more bang for your buck.
Is great.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yep. And so, yeah, the A, D, K, those vitamins are fat soluble, so they're best taken with fat in a meal. And, I think you choose a high quality nutraceutical, because unfortunately not all supplements are created equally. And then, trying to take them with something that improves their digestion and absorption, right. I think is really the best way to get the most bang for your buck in terms of when you're purchasing supplements. Yeah.
I think that's really huge. That I'm so happy you mentioned that, because I was going to forget to talk about that. We tell this to all of our patients, all of our friends, all of our whoever will listen, that the supplements that you're purchasing may be expensive urine, as a lot of people will call it, if it's not made to be absorbed well. And so there's a lot of supplements that are sold that are poor quality in what the actual ingredient is. So it's very difficult for our body to recognize it and use it. But there's also a lot of supplements that have a lot of dyes and chemicals, so that even if the quality of the supplement that they're using is in there, those interfere with their body's ability to use it. So, and also, where are you getting them? So, as long as you know where you're getting them and that it's a high quality place. I know a lot of people are ordering on Amazon. I took a walk in our town yesterday. You wouldn't believe it was recycling day, and it was every single, because of everyone being quarantined, there was boxes and boxes of Amazon boxes being out for recycling. So if you're getting your supplements from a company like that, just make sure you're looking and seeing who the seller is, because you want to make sure you're getting it from a company that is actually not someone's garage, that it could be, resold and expired and whatever. Right. And then, so one other thing that you and I have been getting a lot of questions from our patients and some of our friends is the feeling of, I've been locked down for 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It is spring, and I feel like I just need to reboot. And I just feel like I'm snacking a little bit more than I should. I'm leaning towards those foods that are going to give me that boost of, the carbs and the sugars or whatever. And so one of the things that we've been exposed to and have shared quite a bit with our patients is something called ProLon. And so do you want to just quickly just touch on that, what that program is?
The ProLon is a really cool way of mimicking a 5-day fast. So there's a lot of longevity research out there about fasting, helping downregulate inflammation, right. Helping the body get rid of cells that need to die, and helping to promote kind of anti-aging chemicals in our body. And to really get that benefit, intermittent fasting, unfortunately, isn't enough. And really a 5-day fast is where we see those health benefits. And that is, I don't know about you, Lisa, but for me, that would be pretty hard, 5-day fast. And so, this is a food-based program that gives you some nutrition And you don't starve, you don't eat your normal amount of calories, but it's food-based nutrition that mimics that 5-day fast. So during those 5 days, you are taking some food, and your body is going through the process of upgrading and resetting that happens during a fast, but you don't have to go through feeling hungry all the time while you do that.
And so when you mentioned cells that die and need to be cleaned up, that's called apoptosis. And so what
Right,
that happens is
right.
the body is continually trying to push out what is no longer needed and regenerate new. And so you don't want a lot of that left around. And, the research that has been done, the reason that you and I resonated with this so much is because it is backed by 20 years of insane, great NIH research showing reduction in blood sugar, reduction in CRP, which is a marker for body inflammation, reduction in things that are overall systemic inflammation markers in the body. And so when people are thinking I want to restart, that what might be really great for them, but also these people that are maybe struggling with this simmering inflammation, most often it's because they don't have that export of the cells that are supposed to be getting shoved out of the body, so to speak. And so if anyone's interested in that, that is the one that we would say, don't starve, but definitely thinking about, is there something that you want to reboot, detoxification, that kind of thing. A lot of people are going to do a detox. And so that may be okay too, but it sometimes actually increases inflammation. Always has to get on camera. So we don't want to increase inflammation right now. And so detoxing can do that, whereas
Right.
this is quite the opposite. So
Right.
that's something else that people had reached out to us about. We wanted to make sure we touched base on. So that's it. We just wanted to say thank you for those of you that are still with us, and we'll break this up so that it's not so long for people that don't have the attention span. But for those of us that are here for you in functional medicine, we just want to say we are here for you, and we do want to touch a little bit to close on the mental health piece of it, and just saying that we do really, really need you to reach out. So whether it be to us, a friend, a colleague, this is really hard on so many people. And please do not hesitate to reach out to us if we can help in any way, and to be okay with reaching out, because right now is just an unknown situation for us all. It's unprecedented, and we really want to make sure that people know that they shouldn't be hiding and shouldn't be embarrassed, and now is the time to utilize the community and your practitioners.
Yes, thank you for saying that so well, Lisa. I completely agree. We're here for you. We know it's hard. We're all human. We all have ups and downs, and that's okay. That's what life's about. We will get through this, and Lisa and I are here to help you in any way that you think we can. So please do reach out.
And so for those of us that want to reach, anyone that wants to reach out to us, you can reach out to us by email, info@4betterhealthmedicine.com. You can look at our website, which is 4betterhealthmedicine.com. He has his own accent. Yeah. And then if you wanted to call us, it's 508-625-1807. We thank you so much. Everyone stay healthy.